Let's go back to 2012 in our nation's capital. Washington, D.C.'s football team has been mired in mediocrity for the past 4 years. They haven't made the playoffs since 2007 and have finished last in their division every season since. They've trotted out uninspiring offenses, and the seats are empty. One of the NFL's proudest franchises has hit a low. But then, in 2012, they changed football forever. Working this team's sidelines is one of the greatest collections of coaching talent this game has ever seen. Head coach, Mike Shanahan. Offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan. Quarterbacks coach, Matt LaFleur. Tight ends coach, Sean McVay. And offensive assistant, Mike McDaniel. Those five, both co-workers and close friends, work together to create one of the best offenses in the league. In 2012, Washington goes 10-6, winning the NFC East on the back of an offense that ranked 4th in points and 1st in rushing yards. But that is only the beginning of this story. Over the course of the next 10 years, those 4 assistant coaches would all become head coaches in their own right. Together, during that time they spent in Washington and other spots around the league, they created something. An offensive scheme so effective you can score 30 points a game with the last pick of the draft at quarterback, or turn late-round picks into 1,000-yard rushers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the NFL's meta. Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Pigskin, the doctor is in, and today we're going to be talking about the Shanahan coaching tree. Now, if you've been paying attention to football at all over the past few years, there's a good chance that you've heard a lot about the Shanahan-style offense. A lot of great head coaches have come from this scheme, and of course you've got the main guys, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, and Matt LaFleur. They're all regarded as some of the brightest offensive minds in today's game, and they're being applauded for creative and innovative offensive schemes that can find success regardless of personnel. I like to describe this Shanahan-style offense as the NFL's meta, and what I mean by meta is that it's the most effective tactic available. It's a term that originates from gaming, and I think perfectly describes how this offense is run. Now, in gaming and in the NFL, you don't have to run the meta, but it's in the name. It's the most effective tactic there is. But what exactly is this Shanahan offense? How does it work? Why does it work? Who are these coaches and where did they come from? That's what we're going to be tackling today. We're going to take a deep dive into the Shanahan coaching tree, the offensive scheme, and the 4 main components that I believe makes up this offense. These 4 concepts weave together like ingredients in a nice recipe, cooking up one of the most dominant and innovative offenses in today's NFL. You've probably heard the term video game offense, but this takes it to a whole new level. Now, before we go any further, I do want to offer a little bit of a disclaimer. No, I'm not a player, and no, I'm not a coach, right? I'm just a guy chilling in an apartment. But I've done a lot of hard work to try and really understand how this offense is run. Watching film, watching coaching clinics, reading articles, doing a bunch of research, going through it. I hope that I'm able to explain this in a way that's understandable and appreciated by all of you guys, and I hope I'm able to do this scheme justice, because I have the utmost respect for these coaches. And if you guys would like, I've actually compiled all of my sources, all of my research into one document. I'll link it down below. If you guys want to learn more about it, I highly recommend you go check it out. Alright, so with that in mind, let's get started. Run the ball. All the cool kids are doing it. And by cool kids, I mean the Shanahan coaching tree. Outside zone runs are the backbone of this Shanahan scheme, and it can be traced all the way back to the man they call the mastermind, the original Shanahan. In the mid-90s, the Denver Broncos found themselves at a crossroads. This team was 0-4 in the Super Bowl, and John Elway was starting to age. After firing longtime coach Dan Reeves in 1992 and 2 lackluster seasons under Wade Phillips, the Broncos hired a coach by the name of Mike Shanahan. In Denver, Mike Shanahan, alongside offensive line coach Alex Gibbs, revolutionized pro football with the outside zone run. These two coaches were amongst the first to truly implement it into the NFL. So what exactly is an outside zone run? It's a term you might hear a lot when you turn on a football game, but how does it work and what makes it so great? Well, what if I told you that this was a play that you could feasibly run against any type of defensive personnel and any type of defensive alignment? By using a zone blocking scheme, the offensive linemen aren't just hitting the guy in front of them. They're not focusing on particular defenders. Their goal is to occupy space and block whoever is in the area. The linemen on the side of the run will work together to double block defensive linemen before climbing to the second level to block linebackers. The linemen on the opposite side of the run seal off the back side of the play, leaving a cutback lane open before flowing in the direction of the run to block second level defenders. Doing this essentially gives the running back 4 different holes to choose from. Before the ball is snapped, the runner doesn't know which hole he's going to hit. When he first gets the ball, he'll start running outside. It's commonly said that their target is to run off the butt of the tight ends, but based on how the blocks play out, he can either keep running to the sideline, run between the tight end and tackle, run between the tackle and guard, or cut up the middle of the field. That's what makes this play so special. Odds are, one of these 4 holes will be open. A runner with good patience and vision will find it and likely hit the second level of the defense before they're even touched. Let's break one down. A well-executed outside zone run is one of the most aesthetically pleasing plays in football. In this case, it's a 59-yard touchdown run by the Broncos' Terrell Davis. Look at how stretched out the Cowboys' defense is. Those big defensive linemen are moving laterally, not downhill. As soon as Davis gets the ball, he's watching to see how the blocks play out. On this play, the center and right guard execute a great double block on the Cowboys' defensive tackle, opening up a massive cutback lane. That's the beauty of this play right here. Even if the outside isn't open, you still have a shot to cut back with how stretched out the defense is. All Davis, or any other running back in this concept, has to do is press the right button. He does, and it's an easy touchdown. If you want to see just how effective the outside zone run is, look no further than Mike Shanahan's Broncos. Denver's most dominant period under Shanahan was from 1996 to 1998. Over those 3 seasons, the Broncos went a combined 39-9 and finally got the monkey off their back, winning not just 1, but 2 rings. Their secret to success wasn't John Elway. It was outside zone runs with Terrell Davis. They spammed this play over and over and over again. Davis put together perhaps the greatest 3-season stretch by a running back in league history. From 1996 to 1998, an era that saw elite running backs like Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Jerome Bettis, and Curtis Martin, it was Davis who stood head and shoulders above everybody. Over those 3 seasons, Davis rushed for a combined 5,296 yards. That's 199 more yards than the next closest player, and 1,015 more than third place. It's also the most over a 3-season span in NFL history. He also ran for 49 touchdowns over those 3 seasons, 17 more than any other player. Mind you, Davis was a 6th-round pick who didn't even have a 1,000-yard season in college. Although injuries forced Davis to prematurely retire in 2001, Denver's running game didn't miss a beat under Shanahan. Mike Shanahan coached the Broncos for 14 seasons, and in 11 of them, Denver boasted a 1,000-yard rusher. And even more impressively, they did that with 6 different running backs. It truly did not matter who was carrying the ball. The outside zone run is just that effective. Shanahan was let go by the Broncos in 2008, but he quickly landed on his feet and was hired by Washington. In 2012, the stars had aligned. That all-star coaching staff came together to transform Washington's offense, giving them one of the best ground games in recent memory thanks to heavy use of outside zone runs. Washington rushed for a league-leading 2,709 yards that season, and while Robert Griffin III got all the headlines, it can be easy to forget that their other rookie, obscure 6th-round pick Alfred Morris, rushed for 1,613 of those yards. That's a number that has been topped in a single season only 6 times since. Today, the outside zone run is still a big part of this offensive scheme and wildly successful across the league. Kyle Shanahan's 49ers, while running it a little less than years past, still heavily feature it in a rushing attack that's helped Christian McCaffrey run away with the rushing title. Even before McCaffrey, this was one of the best rushing teams in the league despite a constant rotation of backs. Mike McDaniel transformed the Dolphins' run game with his zone-heavy scheme. In 2021, the year before McDaniel was hired, the Dolphins rushed for only 1,568 yards, third fewest in the NFL. But just 2 years later, they're now fourth in the NFL in rushing yards, and they also lead the NFL in yards per attempt. Matt LaFleur brought his outside zone scheme to the Packers in 2019, maximizing the talent of Aaron Jones. In the 2 seasons prior to LaFleur's arrival, the 5th-round pick never topped more than 750 yards, but has 3 1,000-yard rushing seasons under LaFleur. And Sean McVay changed the fortunes of the Rams when he incorporated his take on outside zone into their offense. Todd Gurley thrived in this system, putting together an absurd 2-year run that saw him be named first-team All-Pro both seasons, while winning Offensive Player of the Year and finishing second in MVP voting in 2017. Simply put, this concept is overpowered. Defenses probably wish there was a nerf, but there really isn't. When you execute this properly, running the ball is practically effortless. And when you establish the run in the Shanahan offense, well, that's where the real fun starts.
The limited edition blue PSP system, bringing NFL fans together. At least until they're gone. The Madden NFL 09 Entertainment Pack, rated E for everyone. PSP.
Go ahead and put yourself in the shoes of a defense going up against this offense. This whole week you've been drilled on outside zone, outside zone, outside zone. You've been watching film and studying tendencies. You are not going to get beat on the ground. It's game time. The quarterback reaches his arm out, ready to hand that ball off. Here it is right here, the moment you've been preparing for. Ah, dang it. What you just saw there is play action, and it's a fairly basic concept. You guys all know it. You fake the handoff and you throw the ball instead. It's been around in the NFL for a long time. It can actually be traced all the way back to the 1930s, but we've really seen its effectiveness and quantity of use being ramped up over the years. This concept is built on misdirection and deception, which can lead to some wide open receptions. It's common sense, right? You fake the handoff, the defense bites, your wide receivers get open, boom, chunk play. But in this Shanahan offense, there's a little bit more to it. They like to run what is called bootleg play action, and that is also a fairly common thing, but they just run it a lot. When the quarterback fakes the handoff, they'll roll out of the pocket. This gives them further separation from the incoming pass rush and creates a much easier field of view to see receivers downfield. Hank Stram, legendary head coach for the Kansas City Chiefs and one of the pioneers of play action, described it as a moving pocket for the quarterback. This aspect is just as, if not more important to the success of play action as the fake itself. But even with that being said, the fake is still a very important aspect of this play, and it's worth noting that that fake of handing the ball off doesn't have diminishing returns. What I mean by that is that you can keep running play action and it won't become less effective. Josh Hermsmeyer of 538 did a study tracking the movement of linebackers on play-action passes and found that they are typically just as reactive to the 11th play-action pass as they are to the first one that they see in a game. That threat of handing the ball off is just palpable enough that defenses are going to react to play-action no matter what. Couple that with isolating the quarterback further away from the pass rush and giving him a larger field of view to find receivers, and you've got the best play in football. Here's a great example of a well-executed play-action pass. On this play, the Packers use a fake run to set up a screen, and the results are beautiful. Before the snap, they'll send Samori Toure in motion, which is something we'll talk about more in a minute, but they do this to sell a run to this side of the field. Love fakes the handoff and rolls out left, creating a ton of space between him and the defense, that moving pocket we talked about. By the time the defense recognizes it's a pass, it's already too late. They've all keyed in on Love, leaving Aaron Jones, the man they faked it to, wide open with 3 blockers in front of him for a 51-yard catch and run. These coaches see just how effective play action can be, especially when it's paired with that killer outside zone running game. For that reason, it's the bread and butter of this scheme's passing attack. Think of all the great quarterback seasons that we've seen under these coaches. All of them have been built off of play action. That 2012 Washington team might be the greatest play action team of all time. Quarterback Robert Griffin III won Rookie of the Year that season not only because of his dazzling runs, but big plays through the air. That season, 39.9% of RG3's passes were play action, far and away the most in an NFL season. He averaged 11.8 yards per attempt on play action, not per completion, per attempt. That season, Sean McVay was paying close attention. 5 years later, when he was hired by the Rams, he also built his passing attack off of play action, transforming one of the worst offenses in the league with an underperforming first overall pick at quarterback into one of the most prolific offenses in football history. In 2018, his Rams went 13-3 and made the Super Bowl thanks to an offense that scored 32.9 points per game, 16th highest in NFL history. That season, 34.4% of Jared Goff's passes were play action, over 4% more than any other quarterback in the league. Goff averaged 10 yards per attempt on play action, as opposed to 7.5 yards per attempt on non-play action passes. There's plenty of other great examples of play action success in this offense. Matt Ryan won MVP in 2016 thanks to a career year. He also happened to lead the league in play action rate, and his offensive coordinator that season? Kyle Shanahan. Mike McDaniel's Miami Dolphins have averaged over 9.5 yards per attempt on play action with Tua at quarterback, which is the second highest in the NFL since 2022 when McDaniel took over. Oh, Mike McDaniel. Don't let that goofy look or demeanor fool you. This is one of the brightest football minds on planet Earth. Now, why don't we go out to sunny Florida and pay old Mike McDaniel a visit?
What this small accessory does is make the Wii Remote more precise, more responsive, more intense. It's called Wii Motion Plus.
Welcome to tropical heaven. Now with more motion. What I'm describing is not only Nintendo's hit game Wii Sports Resort, but the Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. These coaches would love the Wii, wouldn't they? It's all about motion. Motion has been a part of football since the early 1900s and can be traced all the way back to the University of Minnesota. But these four coaches in particular have taken it to a whole new level. Motion, both pre-snap and at the snap, is a staple of the Shanahan tree offense. Take a look at this graph put together by ESPN's Stats and Information Department. The x-axis represents motion at the snap on running plays, while the y-axis represents it on passing plays. Teams in the upper right quadrant used motion at the highest rate in the league. Hey look, the gang is all here. Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Mike McDaniel. Talk about Motion Plus. So why have coaches made motion such a big part of their offense, and what the heck is going on in Miami? The short answer is that motion is an easy way for offenses to get an advantage over the defense before the ball's even snapped. You can use it to simply confuse the defense and give a tougher read on what play you're running. You can use it to get a numbers advantage to one side of the field. Maybe you want to manufacture mismatches for your best players, get them a running start, or tell if the defense is in zone or man coverage. Now, that's a lot to digest, so let's just dive into some examples in action. The Miami Dolphins have had one of the most electric offenses in the league since McDaniel took over, and a lot of it is due to the way he uses motion to get wide open looks for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. This is one of the fastest wide receiver duos the NFL has ever seen, and McDaniel uses motion to give them a practically unfair advantage, a running start. Let's go back to their Week 1 game against the Chargers and see this concept in action. The Dolphins used motion on almost 75% of their plays in this game. Tua Tagovailoa threw for an incredible 466 yards, and most of these yards were set up by motion. What we're about to watch is a 30-yard catch by Tyreek Hill. Look at how wide open he gets. By the time the ball hits his hands, there's not a single defender within 5 yards of him. How on earth did he find so much open space? Let's run this play back. Pre-snap, he's lined up almost like a tight end, crouched down and near the offensive line, but gets sent in motion out wide as the ball is being snapped. His defender follows him as he motions across, showing the Chargers are in man coverage. This is where things start to get fun. By the time the ball is snapped, Hill already has a full head of steam, going up against man coverage. The corner respects Tyreek's speed like anyone would, giving him a few yards of cushion. But by doing that, Tyreek also gets an easy release by cutting his route off and running over the middle of the field, a dig route. There's no help down the middle because River Craycraft runs a seam route that takes his defender away from that area. This concept is something the Dolphins run over and over again. They'll run plays similar to this one, combining the seam and dig routes, get receivers on the move near the goal line, and they even sent Hill in motion for a screen pass against the Giants. But the Dolphins aren't the only team in this tree that are heavily incorporating motion, as that chart would indicate. LaFleur, McVay, and Shanahan are also using it at some of the highest rates in the NFL. The Rams use a similar concept to the Dolphins, motioning their speedster Tutu Atwell as the ball's being snapped and sending him on deep dig routes. They also use a lot of motion in the running game, causing misdirection by motioning players towards one side of the field, but running the ball towards the other side. The Packers saw their usage of motion increase dramatically when Matt LaFleur took over for Mike McCarthy. In 2018, McCarthy's final season with the team, Green Bay used motion on only 30.2% of their plays, the third lowest rate in the league. But by 2020, that number jumped up to 55%, sixth highest in the league. Perhaps most impressive was getting Aaron Rodgers to buy into this style of offense. Rodgers himself has said many times he doesn't like too much motion and prefers getting to the line of scrimmage and quickly snapping the ball, but eventually came around enough to see the value it brings. And hey, while running LaFleur's offense, Rodgers had two of the best seasons of his career and won back-to-back MVPs. And then there's Kyle Shanahan's 49ers. I really like this play against the Rams. It incorporates the three things we've covered so far. They send Kyle Juszczyk in motion to the right to make it look like he's going to be a lead blocker for McCaffrey on an outside zone run, but they fake the pitch, pulling the defense away from a wide-open George Kittle. This team uses motion just like all the other teams under this tree, but there's something in particular that they do a little bit better than anyone else in the league. Beyond just sending players in motion before the ball is snapped, they can shift their entire formation at the line of scrimmage, swapping players in and out of roles interchangeably. They're the pioneers of the final pillar of this Shanahan-style offense, and in my opinion, pioneers for the future of football. Meet the Super Yak Bros. George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey. Now what you might see is a tight end, a fullback, a wide receiver, and a running back. But what Kyle Shanahan sees is four queens on a chessboard, ready to be moved around wherever he so pleases. This is positionless football. These players aren't just defined to a single role, they're versatile, flexible, and can be deployed all over the field. It opens up a ton for the offense. No matter what play or concept they're running, these four players can all be out on the field, and it opens up everything for them. You know how I said that sometimes the 49ers will change their entire formation at the line of scrimmage? That's not an exaggeration. Let's watch an example in action. This is a play from their Thursday night game against the Giants in Week 3. San Francisco comes out in I formation with only one wide receiver, leading the Giants defense to believe that they're going to run a play from this look. They've got a fullback out there. Surely this is a run, right? Not so fast. Juszczyk and Elijah Mitchell quickly shift out wide, now giving the 49ers three wide receivers. The play went from looking like an obvious run to an obvious pass in a matter of seconds. The Giants quickly have to shift their defense too, and before the ball is snapped. Juszczyk and Mitchell are both good enough players as backs and receivers, so the Giants have to respect them out wide. And also, just like we talked about with motion, this shift reveals the Giants are in man coverage. All that movement and confusion gives George Kittle an easy one-on-one, which he wins, getting the 49ers a first down. And that's with Elijah Mitchell out there, and no disrespect to Mr. Mitchell, but how about we swap him out for Christian McCaffrey, arguably the greatest receiving back of all time? Since acquiring McCaffrey, the 49ers have taken positionless football to a whole new level. This is the positional alignments for McCaffrey, Deebo, Juszczyk, and Kittle since Week 7 of the 2022 NFL season, CMC's 49er debut. While the 49ers have other talented players, these four really make the offense go. They're all capable of running, receiving, or blocking, and because of that, defenses have no idea who is going to be doing what on a given play. While the 49ers are the pioneers of positionless football, they're not the only team that is practicing this. The Dolphins use fullback Alec Ingold as their own take on Kyle Juszczyk, deploying him all over the field. He's equally able to destroy defenders as a lead blocker or win on routes downfield, making him a mismatch no matter where he plays. And then there's the Rams, who kind of have their own little twist on this, and this is something I'm really excited to get into. The Rams have a pair of very versatile wide receivers, one who can play the role of fullback and one who can play the role of tight end, and they use them to get some massive mismatches in the run game. This is Ben Skowronek. He was drafted as a wide receiver out of Notre Dame in 2021, and he's been a solid piece for the Rams in the receiver room ever since. But last season, Sean McVay started doing something a little odd with him. He'd put him at fullback. So why do the Rams do this? Why put a wide receiver at fullback? By using a wide receiver at fullback, the Rams are able to get all the advantages of running 21 personnel while going up against nickel defenses. And just for reference, in case you're not familiar, what I mean by 21 personnel is that's how many backs and receivers are in the formation on a given play. So in this case, for example, 21 personnel, you've got 2 backs and 1 tight end, 21. And the other one that you should probably get familiar with for the rest of this video is 12 personnel, which is the opposite. You have 1 back and 2 tight ends. Now, in this case, when the Rams won 21 personnel, their second back just happens to be a wide receiver. Because Skowronek is a wide receiver by trade, defenses need to match up with him accordingly. When they see 3 wide receivers come onto the field, they usually counter with 3 cornerbacks. But having a third cornerback out there means you gotta get rid of a defender, and more often than not, that means having only 2 linebackers. Now watch as the Rams shift their formation, putting Skowronek into the backfield. All of a sudden, they've got a lead blocker they can insert into any gap, going up against a lighter defense with only 2 linebackers out there. Now, the Rams are also able to get the advantages of running 12 personnel, 1 back and 2 tight ends, while also just using a wide receiver at tight end, and it's someone you might not expect. This is Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown winner, Offensive Player of the Year, Route Runner Extraordinaire, and part-time tight end. This one is a little bit more abstract, but hear me out. Kupp rarely lines up as an actual tight end, but in this Rams offense, he essentially acts as one. Since 2021, no team has run 11 personnel more than the Rams have. That's a bit surprising considering in 2020 they ran 12 personnel at the highest rate in the league. The reason for that drop-off isn't because they stopped prioritizing good blocking in that area of the field. It's because they lost Gerald Everett, an actual tight end, to free agency and started using Cooper Kupp as their de facto second tight end. One aspect of Kupp's game that I don't think gets nearly enough recognition is his blocking. He's a really physical player and does a great job of setting the edge in the run game. Because he's also such a big threat as a receiver, it gives the Rams 2 advantages. One is that they don't need to take out Kupp on running plays. He can stay out on the field no matter what the Rams are running, and they won't tip their hand by swapping him out. 2 is that since he's such a big threat as a slot receiver, more often than not he's matched up against nickel corners, who are typically the smallest defenders on the field and easy to throw around as a blocker. And hey, once again, that extra corner usually means the defense has to sub out a linebacker. He's a mismatch on both passing and running plays. Don't let the label of slot receiver fool you. Kupp offers everything that a great tight end does, while also forcing the defense to respect him as an elite receiver. This maybe isn't quite what you think of when you first think of positionless football, but I think it holds up and falls under the same umbrella. All it is having versatile players that can fill multiple roles and giving you massive mismatches. To me, this idea of positionless football is kind of a culmination of what this offensive scheme is all about. Versatility, deceiving the defense, getting your best players in the open field. There's no wasted movement. Everyone has a job to do on every given play, and I think that's kind of beautiful. For all of its complications, all of the nuances, the tiny, gritty little details, football, at the end of the day, is just a pretty simple sport. It's 11 men working together to advance the ball across the field. The NFL has changed a lot since that 2012 Washington team took the league by storm, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for shaping the game that we see today. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? You have 5 coaches coming together, working together towards a common goal of advancing the ball across the field. And what they created is maybe just the best way to do it. It's the most effective tactic available. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I want to give a big thank you to all my new subscribers that have joined me throughout the season, whether it be through my streams or my previous video. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe and check out what else I've got going on. I'm really excited for the future of this channel. I've been really busy with school this past semester, but by the time this video is out, I will either be about to graduate or have graduated, and I really want to try and take this to the next level. Let me know down in the comments below, do you think that the Shanahan offense is the most effective tactic available in the NFL? If not, what else do you think is? And maybe how can defenses try and counteract it? Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. All of your support, feedback, and everything truly does mean the world to me. I truly find myself happiest when I'm doing stuff like this, and I want to continue to try and grow this channel. So, with that being said, the doctor is out.